Hi friends, let's take a look at Link versus Bitcoin and Link versus the dollar coin. You're wondering, what's this background you got, Rocky? Well, I'm in a different place. I'm in Forres. If you ever read or went to see the play Macbeth by Shakespeare, very famous one, you might have heard about it. It's that play that you're not really supposed to say the name of, the Scottish play. In that story, Macbeth gets given sort of supernatural powers by some witches. Where were those witches? Well, those witches were right here where I am in a place called Forres. Macbeth himself and all the rest of them lived in and around Elgin, by the way, and this is in the north of Scotland, and this is a very historic, wonderfully beautiful area in the world. Really, really fantastic place in the world, really overall, and I just want to show you where that is in relation to the world. So let me know where you are. I really am genuinely interested. I'm in just this tiny wee place. Ignore that dot on London. It's a liar. So let's take a look at the price action together. Just zooming on in here and checking back in. You saw these very nice little profit taking targets. Now, what was it that we were talking about at the time? Well, we said that you could look at these at the time being down here in this 60K area, was that you could be looking at these for the three sort of targets towards the top side, really, more or less, and where we could be going, and we've come up here so far halfway up again, and that's that's very, very positive in terms of the price action. We've moved up above the 382. We're properly opening and closing above the 236 Fibonacci retracement. We're above the 21 EMA. Things are looking healthy. If we look over to the left, you can see that we're just kind of undoing this other Fibonacci retracement because we've got the 382 kind of almost overlapping with our 382 here on this one. And if I keep zooming over to the left, you can see that the 236, which is on this sort of all-time lows and highs effort on this particular chart, is that fair to have said that? It's actually from the most recent low, which isn't the all-time low, to be honest, but looking up towards these all-time highs, then the 236 comes in at 75,348. So we're only 348 of these little Satoshi efforts to get up above the 236 there and undo that Fibonacci towards the top side, make it so that we could then look back up towards the 97K area and all that good stuff. Now, that's all great and everything, but this is obviously at the mercy of the Bitcoin price action itself, and Bitcoin has been far more liquid, volume action, everything else on it, and volatile and whatever else over the last wee while than this particular one. So maybe we should look at the dollar pricing instead to get a better idea about this one, because depending on how the Bitcoin one goes, this one will go slightly differently. You'd be looking for a greater relative increase in price than the other one. Now, we did talk about, by the way, I'm just deleting this crap off of here right in this area, and we talked about how there was a big drop off in the VPVR over there, and you can see as well that this wick here kind of demonstrates that when we went through this here, the liquidity in this zone was taken back out again, and then we kind of wicked up and down during it. You can kind of look towards this area then at 827 as being a sort of a little sort of catchy outy area. If we drop down below that, we could be looking down to sort of the 711s area again thereafter. So we know that this area is important. We've got these three price targets over on the left hand side should we see prices move towards the downside, as we saw them moving past them back up again towards the top side. And we're doing very well in here at 857, very close to our previous highs. Now, this particular Fibonacci retracement has the 618 coming in here at $8, and we've just kind of came up close to that and just went straight through it. Went up to the 786, where indeed we found a turnaround at that point in price point. It's quite common. It's quite common to happen there. The prices sank back down again, came up and put in this crazy doji, and actually then since then we've come up here, and where have we come to? Well, lo and behold, we've come up to the 886. Now, this is the next sort of big old turnaround area. Opens and closes above this 865 zone would be quite positive. We could then start kind of fairly quickly looking towards all-time highs yet again. That would only have to be another sort of 20-30 cents up there afterwards to get into that zone. But this is obviously going to be quite key for us. Let's take a look at how we've been getting on coming up here. If we come up here and actually put in a higher price action close, than sometimes I use the word price action wrongly. Whatever. If we put in a close here at 865, right? So that was again that number we were talking about before, 865 then, and do that without these things here kind of continuing on a little bit further, then you could quite easily anticipate bearish divergence. In terms of the MACD, I think that makes it the clearest. You can see that the way that the MACD works, I spoke about this in another video already, is very much to do with the difference between the size of the candles and stuff. So on the way up here, you can see that we had this very much, you know, the histogram on this thing was pushing towards the top side. Then since we've come down the way, trended towards the downside overall, actually, with a sort of lower highs, lower lows. I did that the wrong way around. Lower lows, lower highs, lower lows here on this one. And we did that on the way down without divergence between these things on the oscillators down below. Come back in here, and so far all we have is this sort of measly little upward candle, or green. In fact, it's just turned red there now. So, you know, we're coming up here, and it looks like that the chances are that we'll have some divergence. Now, that's just that's premature. Just want to point that out again. Been doing this in all the videos again today, just to think about how you would maybe handle this in advance if we did see a drop down there afterwards. You know, you would maybe be able to look at that, maybe compare it to the previous candle, a couple of candles and particular time frames that you're looking at, and say, well, if we take out the wicks here or whatever, and that can help you manage your risk or enter into positions. And that's maybe how you would look to do that. As we can see here as well, the DMI is actually looking like it could come in for a cross. It could do. The positive and negative could potentially cross over during this upward movement of price action, even, you know, in the face of that. And that the stochastics have come back up here towards this over bought territory, and that, you know, you have this little conflict, you know, that if we did close before up above 865, you know, then would we be asking questions about the divergences and whatnot? Indeed, if we don't, then we've just come up to this oversold territory, put in a lower high overall after having put in some lows, and maybe we would consider this to be the low, and this to be, you know, this to be the high, this to be the low, ignoring this stuff, this to be the next one that would be a lower high, and then on afterwards we'd be looking down the way, and if it went down below 711 again, sort of territory, that would be quite bearish on that one. So that's what we can look to. Of course, let's bear in mind as well then which pairing of these you'd want to be moving your money between in terms of the trend going on with Bitcoin, and indeed with Ethereum too, if you're trading between Link and Ethereum, which I'm sure some people must be doing. So yeah, and that's the dollar side of things kind of taken care of. Let's go down the time frames and look at how things are going. This is all spread out nicely, like you want to see the yellow, green, blue, purple of the exponential moving averages, nice. The red and the white of the 50 and 200 simple moving averages, nice. Moving towards the top side, nice. You can see these patterns in the past, they worked out for us. This channel here also worked out for us quite well. Moved outside of it, came back up, retested it thereafter, moved up towards the top side, nice. Okay, all good. Potential for bearish divergence to come in, but that's premature to say so that's not happened yet. These things have all crossed over, and we have lost the luster on the ADX. If this crosses and moves back up the way again, you know, and goes up above 20 with the positive crossing over the negative and everything else happening, that would be very nice. But if it doesn't happen at the minute, then that's kind of, you know, not the greatest. And if we do go in and put in a high above 873, you know, going up that extra chunk there towards above these previous highs, and we don't achieve it with some strength in here, or indeed versus this high at the minute that we're doing is already coming in as being bearishly divergent between this high 23rd of July there over towards the 2nd of August. That's already bearishly divergent, so I'd look out for that. Those are things to look out for. Come in here, the 886 common retrace point. Have I already spoken about that in this episode? I've speaking about it in all the episodes today. So you could be looking at a pullback down the way as well thereafter. So we've come into this area, you know, a lot of the easy stuff is being done. Movements beyond this area is what we're going to have to look for, or indeed movements back down below significant areas such as the $8 area, which could then lead to these targets and wherever else for your trading. Right now, at the minute, it's not necessarily the easiest place to trade from overall. I would look at this as being an ascending triangle in general, I would suppose, just in around this zone, just so you know, up there, sort of just an ascending triangle. That's not very good. So so yeah, I would look at that and I would ask, you know, what could that do for us? What could it do for us? Where could it take us? And if it does play out towards the top side, then you're looking at a move which is around 864, 780. That's 80 cents, maybe somewhere about 50 cents up from that. I suppose would be a start of it. So 8,670 up to 930 or so, that could put us up there in big areas. So maybe the top side target to be aware of at the minute, I'd say, would be maybe in and around about that 930 area. Failing that, or, you know, succeeding that, moving past it, looking towards 993, then thereafter up towards 1043. If I'm going to be looking at sort of targets beyond those areas, 930 would be the big one. You got this in here at 820, 830 as well. 893 as well would be the next sort of area where we had our previous wick highs to look at. And this here is just very much premature in terms of divergence, could be disregarded if we do see the prices moving past this zone very easily. But then if we move down the way, and sort of break out of this thing, say you've got this trend line on the go here. I'll be looking at this. You could probably put a parallel channel in there as well, quite easily. And making assessments off the back of movements around about that area. Give me the other thing. So yeah, we've got all of that, and the ascending triangle. Okay, cool. And yeah, that's going to do us for today's episode. I'm on painkillers because I'm in pain, but that's cool. I recommend people not to trade too much whenever they're tired or not well, not healthy, or not eating well, or any of that sort of stuff. But the technical analysis, I think, is fairly pretty good overall. Looking towards these two zones really above, will we see movements above 865? Fake out territory brings us down to 799 again. I know that's a big move, but that's where it does. Looking at ultimately potentially putting in a higher low anywhere down as far as 770, so if you were to remain bullish on this one, getting bearish on it, I suppose, on this time frame is difficult in a sense between these two highs, really. And that we've done the bearish section here, or doing a bullish section. But if we did do another bearish one, then just looking at it in terms of the couple, you'd be looking at it, maybe we could be bearish on it for a week thereafter, or bullish for a week thereafter that. So that's why these two areas at the minute seem to be fairly decent for me in terms of being positive about things, and are proactive about things. Yeah, movements down below this area, we're going to, you're going to have to look out for that $8 area where we have. I should probably just wrap this up. But I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Well, I didn't show you where I was at in this episode. I'm going to do that. That's what I've got to. I'll call that my Alamo at the minute, where the 144 is coming in at. Overall, if this sort of thing gets taken out, then I could foresee a movement down the way there afterwards. Yeah, could do. In fact, there's the 236 over there as well. So it chimes together with that one. Wonder where that's drawn into. Over here. Right, great. Yeah, cool. By the way, I'm in Forres at the minute, which is in the very north of Scotland. I'm pretty sure I didn't say this during this episode, and I'm just going to say it real quick just now. Let me know where you're at in the world. Ignore that where it says London, because I'm in here. I know that there's people all around the world. Look at this. Look at how big Scotland is, by the way. Look at how big it is. Like, well, it's this size. That's not that big. Well, it is. Yeah, it is. It's really quite a big vast area there. And the BBC News, by the way, sorry to people in England. Sorry about this, but you'll be sad to know that the maps actually put at a tilt so that it makes Scotland look smaller. It's just on purpose to make it and that's just the way it is. It's all good though. But we've got a really big country here. This is surprising because we're the greatest small country in the world. What am I talking about? Right, great. Ooh. Thanks very much for tuning in. I've been Rocky Outcrop. Tune in again tomorrow. I'll be back again with more technical analysis. Really do appreciate it. See you then.